Like I said earlier, we was going to be setting our 2024 men's bracket tournament. Right now, hopefully, the sound picked up on the live. I'm not sure. But for the East, let me make sure. Okay, yeah, we should be good. For the East, we have UConn versus Stetson. I have UConn taking that. You got FAU versus Northwestern. FAU been strong. Northwestern been okay. But I'm going to take FAU. You have San Diego State and UAB. I'm going to take UAB to cover this over against San Diego spread. I think this going to require a little bit more scoring from UAB. Auburn versus Yale. I'm going to take Auburn. BYU versus, I don't know how to say this, but the Quins. I think I'm going to take the Quins beating BYU. They bigger. Illinois versus Morehead State. I'll take Illinois. Washington State versus Drake. I'm going to take Washington State. Iowa State versus South Dakota State. I'm going to take Iowa State. All right. Let's go to the West. Well, let's go to the South. Oh, yeah, it is the West. You got North Carolina versus Wagner. I'm taking North Carolina. Mississippi State versus Michigan State. I'm going to take Mississippi State. St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. I'm going to take St. Mary. Alabama versus Charleston. I think Alabama going to come back and beat Charleston, but Charleston has a good case to upset Alabama. Definitely. No, that was Houston. They lost and got blown. Clemson versus New Mexico. I'll take Clemson. Baylor versus Colgate. I'm going to take Baylor. Dayton versus Nevada. I'm going to take Dayton. Arizona versus Long Beach. I'm going to take Arizona. And this is Midwest Purdue. I'm going to take Purdue to advance. Utah State versus TCU. I'm going to take TCU. Gonzaga versus Manise. I'm going to take Gonzaga. Kansas versus Samford. Samford can upset them, but Kansas is going to play tough. South Carolina versus Oregon. I'm going to take Oregon because South Carolina showed me something that they beatable. Creighton versus Akron. I'm going to take Creighton. Texas versus Virginia or whoever plays tonight. I'm just taking Texas regardless of what happened. Tennessee versus St. Peter's. I'm taking Tennessee. Moving on to the next round, you got UConn versus FAU. UConn going to advance. UAB versus Auburn. I'm going to take Auburn. The Queens versus Illinois. I'm going to take Illinois. Iowa State versus Washington State. I'm going to take Iowa State. In the South, I ain't even advanced everything to the South. Houston versus Longwood. Houston. Nebraska versus Texas A&M. I'm going to take Texas A&M. Wisconsin versus James Madison. I'm going to take James Madison to upset Wisconsin. Duke versus Vermont. I'm going to take Duke. Texas. Oh, I forgot. They got somebody hurt. I'm going to just take Vermont just to be safe. Yeah, I'm going to take Vermont. Texas Tech versus NC State. I'm going to take NC State. Oakland versus Kentucky. I'm going to take Kentucky. Florida, they're going to advance regardless. And Marquette going to advance regardless. So we got UConn versus Auburn. I'm going to take UConn. Houston versus Texas A&M. I think Houston going to come back and be on the rally. James Madison versus Vermont. It's going to be James Madison. Kentucky versus NC State. I believe it's going to be Kentucky. Florida versus Marquette. I believe Marquette is going to play good enough to win this one. Moving on, we got North Carolina versus Mississippi State. North Carolina. Alabama versus St. Mary. St. Mary can upset Alabama. Clemson versus Baylor. I'm going to say Clemson. And Arizona versus Dayton, Arizona. Tennessee versus Texas. I'm going to say Tennessee. Creighton versus Oregon, Creighton. No, I'm going to go Oregon. I'm going to go Oregon. Kansas versus Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Gonzaga. TCU versus Purdue. I'm going to go Purdue. Now, you have Gonzaga versus Purdue. I'm going to go with Purdue. You have Oregon versus Tennessee. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Arizona versus Clemson. I'm going to go with Arizona. North Carolina versus Arizona. North Carolina. Hold on 1 second, everybody. (8:31) is when I take my biscuits out the oven. You got Illinois versus Iowa State. I'm gonna go with Iowa State pulling off that one. Houston versus James Madison. I'm gonna go with Houston. Kentucky versus Marquette. I'm gonna go with Kentucky. And who I have in the Sweet 16, I have North Carolina versus Arizona. I'm gonna go with Arizona upset North Carolina. Purdue versus Tennessee. I have Purdue. Um, UConn versus Iowa State. I'm gonna go with UConn. And Houston versus Kentucky. I have Kentucky. So in the final four, I have UConn versus Arizona. I'm gonna go with UConn. And Kentucky versus Purdue. I'm gonna go with Purdue. And we got Purdue versus UConn. And I'm gonna go with UConn. And I'm gonna submit my bracket. How many total points will be scored in the championship game? I'm gonna go with 139. It's gonna be a smooth game. And that's my bracket. Have UConn winning back to back. I'll see y'all in another video. Chase Way is out. And I'll see y'all in the morning. Good night. Peace.